When I started my journey to fluency, I couldn't understand anything in English. And for almost a year trying to learn, I was completely stuck to the point I quit. So if right now you're struggling with listening comprehension and all you understand well is a teacher like me, we need to have a serious conversation about what you can do to actually understand native speakers, your favorite movies, podcasts, American, British, English, it doesn't matter. I know you want to understand native speakers anywhere, anytime. And by the way, I'm always posting cool stuff around here. I am Teacher Pricks. Make sure to subscribe for weekly lessons. But here we go. You know, guys, I know that it's painful when you want to understand a conversation and you simply don't. It feels like there are so many words and everything is connected. And there you are trying so hard and you get lost and nervous and sweating. And even though you listen to all those TED Talks, all those videos on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, you feel like you're going around and around in circles. And the problem is that this is happening so much more nowadays because there's so much content, there's so many videos, there's so many lessons, there's so many teachers, there's so many audio materials, and yet nothing's changing. Now, based on my professional experience and on being stuck myself, I have noticed a pattern. You want to understand those guys, those native speakers who are really tough, who are really hard, but you fail to understand that everything you do in the English language, and I like to say that it's a circle, everything you do in the English language or everything you don't do, we need to talk about that as well, will impact your listening comprehension results, your performance at the end of the day. And as I said, nowadays, technology is making everything so much more convenient. But when you are in the real world, having a job interview, looking at an American face-to-face with no technology to get your back, that's when things get complicated. Or maybe in your case, you just want to chill and watch Downton Abbey without getting stuck every 2 seconds because you feel like it's a game you can't win. Well, as I mentioned, the circle. There's a problem students face nowadays, which is, I want to listen without doing the work. Okay, Priscilla, can't you just give me a very simple, chill kind of way so that I can watch a movie and just get it and just understand? I wish I could do that for you. You know, I truly do. And I wish I could do that in other aspects of my life. Just pay someone, like just put it here, okay? And just give me the answer. Just give me the solution. But that's not how things go, okay? That's not how things work out. And there will be a process that you need to embark on if you truly desire to understand more without subtitles. Because what I see nowadays is people are reading, they're not listening. And then they fall for this trap that, no, I get it, I understand. But they are reading subtitles. They are reading texts, and texts and words, but nothing changes. So this has a lot to do with the circle. I like to call this a circle. When you think of a circle, okay, there's no beginning or end. It's just one, and then I'll be with you too. I like singing. Singing is a huge part of my life. It's a hobby, it's an interest. But as I said, it's a circle. And what many of you are failing to understand is that listening comprehension alone, when you observe your listening comprehension, your listening patterns, your problems, your challenges, if you just target more listening exercises, more podcasts, or more native speakers, more native teachers, in the pursuit to, open your ears for comprehension, nothing is going to change. And why is that going to happen to you and to many of us, just not just you? Your vocabulary will impact your comprehension. Your grammar will impact your comprehension. Your reading will impact your comprehension. Even your speaking, pronunciation, intonation. So when I separate everything and I just focus on hitting play, listen, and go, that's when I am hurting the process of achieving fluency, of understanding and talking to people anywhere, anytime. That's what I always say here on my channel. I want to make you talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And to be able to talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime, you need to understand, because if you don't, what's the point? And just so you get the idea, I remember once I was talking to this student and she told me, Priscilla, I get all the words, but I can't understand the message. I can't put things together. What is that? Because I get the words. And then I said, well, you need to read more. So I started working with that student. She was about 70 years old, okay? And she told me, Priscilla, I understand, but I when I see the words together, it's just not clear to me. So I started working on reading with her. I did a lot of reading and shadowing. And then I noticed that she had great difficulty with reading. She couldn't understand. She saw the words, but she couldn't put things together. And that got me thinking, okay, so she's reading the words, she can't get them. Okay, so we need to work on grammar too. So I started reviewing some important grammar points, connecting sentences, connecting ideas, contrasting ideas. And then I also noticed that depending on the subject, she was lacking vocabulary. So I started showing her some new expressions and idioms and important verbs and important situations. I focused on connecting the conversation subjects of the class, plus the reading activities, the grammar activities, and slowly her listening comprehension started to improve. Oh, important observation. The listening activities that I prepared for that student were also connected to the subjects that I was speaking to help her expand her horizons, expand her English vocabulary and her English grammar and her reading comprehension, and as a result, her listening comprehension. And what happened after 2 to 3 months? Her listening comprehension began to improve. Simply because I stopped targeting the listening alone, and I showed her the power of the circle, of the integration. And this is what students fail to realize, that to get to the listening comprehension, to the, okay, I'm watching that Saturday night show and I get what they're talking about. I'm getting the interviews and the conversations. That is fantastic. Yeah, to get to that part, simply listening won't cut it. Won't make a difference. And when you look at me and I see so many comments here on my channel, oh, Priscilla, it is so easy to understand you. Yeah, it's my job. It is my job to be understood by you so that I can give you the tools that you can implement, you can choose or not, in order to make progress. But this progress will come when you stop ignoring the other skills, when you stop targeting the listening and you start targeting the process, the integration, because together, all of these activities combined, they will be able to make you understand those movies. That's the serious conversation we are having right now. And one additional comment here. Despite following this process, despite, okay, Priscilla, I'm going to do this. I'm committed. I'm going to, integrate. I'm going to follow the circle of life. Yes. Am I going to understand 100% of all the movies I watch from now on? In 3 to 4 months, 6 months, am I going to be understanding everything? You will understand a lot, but I don't know if you know, but every 3 months, more or less, are like 10,000 new words. So the English language is always evolving, always changing. So there may always be a new expression in a new movie, in a new TV show episode. Maybe you watch Supernatural or you watch Downton Abbey. I think that's the name of the show, right? Downton Abbey. And there is one particular episode where they used so many different expressions and collocations that you may not understand. Does that mean you suck? No, it means you're a human being who doesn't know all the words, who is not a walking dictionary, who perhaps needs to have more pronunciation and intonation lessons, who needs to understand some situations when native speakers link certain sounds in a different way that you may not be familiar with. That is the process. That is the journey. That's why you never stop, because the language is always evolving. And there may be a movie that is going to be easier for you. And there may be a movie that is going to be a pain in the neck for you. all that is saying is, okay, they are giving you signs that there are particular things you need to work on. So I watch a movie, let's say I watch a movie like Fast and Furious. There's just so much noise, like so many special effects, that depending on the conversation, so many street language, slangs and stuff, that it may be a more difficult movie compared to a chick flick, just like that sweet and spice kind of movie that is very predictable and that you're more familiar with. If I watch Friends, I don't need any subtitles. I know everything. I've watched Friends a couple of times. But if I decide to pick a different show that I have never watched before, I may struggle. I may need to become familiar with the mannerisms of the actors. That is part of the game of fluency. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Now tell me, which kind of stuff do you prefer watching? TV shows, movies, podcasts, you name it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Share it with a friend. And if you're interested, I have amazing content, amazing programs. Check the description of this video. See you around.